I thought I was dreaming the first time it happened, until I checked the time and heard the voice again. "Can I get another towel?" Soft, calm, right outside my door. At 2:12 a.m., last winter. I had to travel for a conference and booked a 3-night stay at a budget hotel just outside of Pittsburgh. The kind of place with coffee that tastes like cardboard and faded floral carpets that never quite stop smelling damp. Still, it was clean, and my room was warm, which was all I needed. The first night went by uneventfully. I was wiped from the drive and passed out early. But the second night was different. I woke up at exactly 2:12 a.m. Not because of a dream, but because someone knocked at my door. It's not loud. Just a soft, rhythmic tapping. 3 knocks, then silence. I sat up, confused, heart racing in the dark. Then I heard it. "Can I get another towel?" A man's voice, low and muffled. Polite, almost bored. I stood and looked through the peephole. No one. I even opened the door halfway cautiously. But the hallway was empty. No cart. No staff. Just the low hum of vending machines at the far end and flickering fluorescent lights overhead. I closed the door and chalked it up to a prank or maybe a neighbor, confusing rooms. But the next night it happened again, 2:12 a.m. 3 knocks. "Can I get another towel?" This time I stayed in bed, staring at the door from across the room. I didn't move. The knock came again, same rhythm. "I need another towel." The tone had changed, still calm but firmer. Like a customer getting impatient. I didn't answer. Didn't open the door, just waited in the dark until it stopped. When I mentioned it at the front desk the next morning, the woman working gave me a puzzled look. She checked a clipboard, as no one from housekeeping was working that late. "We locked the supply closets after 11. Are you sure it was this floor?" I nodded. "Room 219. It's happened twice now. Same time, same words." She hesitated, then leaned in a little. "You're not the first one to say that." "What do you mean?" She glanced around, lowered her voice. "There's been stories. Mostly from guests on your side of the building, always past 2 a.m., always asking for something. Towel, ice, room service, different voices, same thing." I pressed her, but she shut down quickly. "Management says it's just noise from the HVAC echoing weird. Old pipes, don't worry about it." I wanted to believe her, I really did. But that night, my last night, there it got worse. I couldn't sleep, kept checking the clock, dreading what I knew was coming. 2 o'clock, 2:05. And then 2:12, knock, knock, knock. I froze. Another towel. The voice was louder now, closer, not muffled like before, like the person was right against the door. I didn't move. My heart was pounding so hard I felt dizzy. Then came the second knock. Harder. "Give me another towel." It wasn't a request anymore. It was a command, flat and emotionless. And then, scratching, fingernails dragging along the door. Slow, deliberate. I got up and looked through the peephole. My breath caught. There was something standing there. Not a man, not really. I couldn't see much, just a tall figure, but the proportions were wrong. Shoulders too wide, head slightly tilted as if listening, at its hand. It had only 3 fingers, curled and twitching slowly against the wood. No uniform, no housekeeping badge, just stillness. Watching. I backed away. "Please open the door." The voice was behind the door but echoed in my head as if whispered directly into my ear. I ran to the bathroom, shut the door, and sat on the edge of the tub with the lights off. I stayed like that for nearly an hour, listening, waiting. Eventually, the noises stopped. When I finally dared to peek into the hallway at dawn, the corridor was empty. No sign anyone had ever been there. But I noticed something. My do not disturb sign was gone. And on the carpet just outside my door, damp and folded neatly, was a single white towel. It wasn't from the hotel. The stitching was wrong. The fabric coarse and yellowed. But what chilled me the most, stitched into the corner in fading red thread, was a room number. 219. My room number. I checked out 2 hours later and haven't stayed in a hotel alone since. I never figured out who or what was knocking at my door, but I've never forgotten the sound of its voice. And I'll never open the door after midnight again.
I always assumed the wheezing sound at night was just the old hotel AC kicking on. It wasn't, it was breathing. This happened last summer during a work trip to Denver. I travel a lot for my job, so hotels don't faze me. I've stayed in everything from luxury suites to roadside motels, and I've seen my share of weird. But nothing like this. The hotel wasn't fancy, just a standard 3-star chain near the airport. Clean enough, nothing sketchy about it. I checked in late, around 11:30 p.m., after a delayed flight. I was exhausted and looking forward to crashing as soon as I could. The room looked normal: 2 queen beds, beige carpet, a desk, TV, mini fridge humming quietly in the corner. But as soon as I stepped in, I noticed a faint chill in the air. Not cold exactly, but damp. Like the room hadn't been aired out in a while. I didn't think much of it. I threw my suitcase on the bed closest to the window and kicked off my shoes. I turned on the TV for background noise and settled in. That's when I heard it for the first time, a faint wheezing sound. It was barely audible over the TV, like someone with a chest cold trying to breathe through a straw, long drawn-out inhales and shaky exhales. I muted the TV. The sound faded, but not entirely. I figured it was the AC or maybe the fridge. It had that humming, rattling thing going on. So I shrugged it off, got under the covers, and eventually dozed off. I woke up around 3:20 a.m. shivering. The room was colder than before and dead silent. The TV was still on mute. The fridge had stopped humming. But the wheezing had returned louder this time. This time, it had rhythm: inhale, exhale, pause, repeat. It wasn't mechanical. It sounded alive. I sat up in bed, heart thudding. My eyes scanned the dark room. Nothing looked out of place, but I couldn't shake the feeling that I wasn't alone. I told myself it was just nerves from a long day. I got up, turned on the lamp, checked the bathroom, the closet, even cracked the door to the hallway. Empty. I climbed back into bed and left the lamp on. Eventually, I must have fallen asleep again. The next morning, I convinced myself it had been a dream. A half-asleep hallucination, maybe. I even laughed a little at how spooked I'd felt. Classic Paranormal at 3 a.m. nonsense, right? That night, after dinner and some emails, I was lying in bed scrolling through my phone. The lamp was on again. I wasn't taking any chances, but I felt calmer until I dropped my phone. It slipped between the bed frame and nightstand, landing face down on the carpet. I leaned over the edge and reached down. It had bounced just out of reach. With a sigh, I got on my hands and knees and peered under the bed to grab it. That's when I saw it. A face, pale, thin, inches from mine. Its eyes were wide, unblinking. The whites yellowed. The skin looked stretched, almost waxy, and its mouth was slightly open, wheezing. I froze. Couldn't scream, couldn't move. Then the eyes blinked. It was alive. I scrambled backward, knocking over the lamp. The room went dark. I reached for the wall switch, flicked it on. Light flooded the room. Nothing. No one under the bed. No sound. Just my phone still on the carpet. I didn't sleep that night. I sat on the desk chair, wide-eyed, until the sun came up. At checkout the next morning, I asked the front desk clerk if anyone had reported anything strange in that room, like break-ins or maybe squatters. She gave me a strange look, then quietly pulled up the booking history. "You were in room 218, right?" I nodded. She hesitated. "Last month, a woman complained about weird breathing sounds. Said she felt someone was in the room at night. We had maintenance check the vents. Nothing." I pressed her. "Was there ever anyone found hiding?" She glanced over her shoulder, then leaned in. "Honestly, a few years back, they found a homeless man living in the crawl space beneath the floor. He'd carved out a spot under the bed in one of the corner rooms. Snuck in through an old maintenance hatch behind the laundry room. Took days to catch him. I left before she could finish. That was 3 months ago. Since then, I've changed how I check into hotels. First thing I do, look under the bed, every time. No matter where I am. Because now I know something I wish I didn't. Just because you can't see someone in your room doesn't mean they aren't there."
I hadn't even unpacked my bags when I heard the footsteps slow, deliberate, coming from the room next to mine. But that room was locked, and according to the front desk, it had been for a long time. I checked into the hotel late on a Thursday night, passing through town on my way to a client meeting the next morning. It was an older place, the kind of hotel that smelled faintly of cleaning chemicals and carpet that had absorbed too much history. Still, it was cheap. The front desk guy seemed nice enough, and I was too tired to care much. They gave me room 303, third floor, end of the hallway. Only one room beside mine, 304. The hallway lights flickered occasionally, and the elevator groaned with every stop. Charming. I took a quick shower, brushed my teeth, and crawled into bed, hoping to squeeze in a few hours before the alarm. That's when I first heard it. Footsteps, just a few, from the room beside mine. Slow, pacing steps across what I assumed was the same layout as mine. I paused, listening. Then came the coughing. Soft, almost suppressed, like someone trying not to be heard. I thought nothing of it at first. Hotels have thin walls. People snore, talk, move around. I put in my earbuds and tried to sleep. But the next morning, as I passed the front desk on my way to grab coffee, I casually mentioned it. "Hey," I said, "does the guy in 304 always stay up late?" Thought I heard him pacing last night. The clerk, a woman this time, older, with silver-rimmed glasses, looked up slowly. 304. Yeah, she frowned, tapping at her computer. No one's been checked into that room in months. It's locked for maintenance. Leak issues, I laughed, thinking maybe she was mistaken. Well, someone was in there. I heard footsteps, coughing. She stared at me for a second, then offered a weak smile. "Maybe you heard something from upstairs. Sound carries oddly in this building." I nodded, but something about her tone felt rehearsed. That night, the noises returned. This time it was louder. I was brushing my teeth when I heard a thud against the shared wall. Then footsteps again, back and forth, steady, followed by a cough. Not a hacking one, but something ragged, wet. I stepped into the hallway. The corridor was empty, dead silent. I knocked once on 304's door. No answer. I leaned in, half joking to myself. "Hey buddy, you okay in there?" Nothing. But just as I turned to leave, I swear I heard a whisper behind the door. One word. "Help." I backed away quickly. The next morning, I asked the front desk again. This time, it was a different clerk. A younger guy who looked like he didn't get paid enough to deal with anything weird. "Seriously," I said, "there's someone in 304. Last night I heard them again. And I think they said something." He looked over both shoulders, then leaned in. "Man, just between us, you're not the first to say that." My heart skipped. There've been complaints, weird noises, people reporting movement from that room. But when we check, nothing. Maintenance even unplugged the power on that floor last month, just to be sure. But the calls kept coming. One guy even requested to move floors after one night next to 304. Said he heard someone breathing right behind the wall. I didn't know what to say. Management just tells us to avoid talking about it. Says it's just pipes or old construction. But we all know it's more than that. That night, I didn't sleep. Around 1 a.m., I heard the door in 304 creak. Not open, just shifts slightly in its frame. A soft knock echoed not on my door, but from within 304, like someone knocking from inside, trying to be let out. Then the lights in my room flickered. My phone buzzed once, dead. I got out of bed and stood there, staring at the wall. Then the sound, scraping, something fingernails, dragging across the inside of the wall, tracing along the edge behind my headboard. Then came the whisper again, closer, clearer this time. "Can you hear me now?" I bolted, ran down the hallway, pajamas and all, straight to the front desk. I told the night manager everything. He didn't even blink. He just handed me a new key, first floor, 107. Sleep there tonight. I didn't argue. When I went back in the morning to grab my stuff, I passed 300 for one last time. The door was ajar, not open, just slightly cracked. I couldn't help it. I looked in. No furniture, just bare walls, but scratched into the far wall, over and over again, with the words, "Let me out." I turned and left. Never went back. A few weeks later, out of curiosity or stupidity, I searched online for anything about the hotel. I found an old forum post from 2014. It mentioned a man staying in room 304 who suffered a heart attack during a blizzard. The hotel lost power, phones were down, and he wasn't found for 2 days. Apparently, he had tried to scratch his way through the wall to get someone's attention. The post ended with one sentence. They say if you stay next door, you can still hear him coughing.